Yeah, I got it. I can check it.
All right.
On their tape.
All right. Good evening, everyone. This is a Birmingham City Council Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is November 21st. Been informed that we actually do not have minutes of the meeting for this. Anybody who needs a copy of the minutes can contact Ms. Rhonda in the council office to get a copy of past meeting minutes. So we'll move on to our agenda. The first item on our agenda is discussion of business improvement district formation, and our speaker is Mr. David Fleming, CEO of REV. Yeah, sure. Maybe you can grab another chair, but
He can stand.
Yep.
He can stand. He can stand. He better stand.
All right.
I'm Jim Staley from the Office of the City Attorney, and I just want to give a brief introduction before turning this over to Mr. Fleming. What is being presented to you is an update and amendment to the city's Business Improvement District ordinance. There are really a couple of purposes behind the amendment. One is to provide updates to the city's ordinance to reflect changes in the state law since the original adoption. And the second, and probably more importance or more relevance, is the expansion of the district. And Mr. Fleming can explain that. Just briefly what the Business Improvement District is, and a lot of you probably know best as the CAPS district. The Business Improvement Districts, Birmingham had legislation in 1994 to allow the city to create this district. The city adopted an ordinance in 95 to create the district. The district is a geographic area in which the district has the ability to levy assessments against the property owners within the district and use those to provide supplemental services in addition to what the city provides. As I mentioned, I think the main service we're all familiar with is the CAPS. The city has an agreement with the district, which will also be updating to reflect the level of city services. The city statute is not to provide a lower level service in the district, and the agreement will spell out just how what services the city provides and how they provide it. They're typically the services you expect: police, fire protection,
Your team doesn't have sense, but
I believe that's all in the way of background. Unless you have any questions, if not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Fleming.
Yeah, so just for clarity, the business improvement district is something that the property owners determine that they want to implement, and the council's role is just to, certify the formation of it. Is that
Right,
accurate?
yeah, it depends on the consent of a certain number of property owners. That's changed over time too, as well as the requirements for doing that amendment. The amendment, for example, went from 2/3 of the property owners by assessed value down to 1/2.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Council. I'm David Fleming, President and CEO of REV Birmingham. Pleased to be here today to present this to you. As Jim explained, this is a tool that is a request of property owners in a business district that has to petition you all to have the power to create it. And before I go deep into it, there are two property owners here from each of the areas that are requesting this, one from 5 Point South and one from the switch or the area around Innovation Depot. And I was going to let them just say a quick word, and then I'll walk you through the details.
Thank you, David. I'm Barbara Cooney. I'm the owner of Soso's 50. We're home of the Shopping Shindig. If you don't know my business, I own a 24,000 square foot building in the middle of the Switch District. I've been there 2 years. I had the opportunity to have a flagship store in Austin, but I chose Birmingham. I had commercial realtors that wanted to show me properties all over the mountain. In Vestavia, Homewood, Mountain Brook. I wanted to be in downtown Birmingham, and I am, and I couldn't be happier in the spot I'm in. I'm driving people from all over the state, not just the city of Birmingham. They're coming to 2nd Avenue North to our shopping event. We have enjoyed enormous success with exponential growth in the last 2 years. We've been in the switch. So we want to put our best foot forward when we are hosting these people from Auburn and Tuscaloosa and, you know, different counties from around the state. So right now we're doing our own pickup services. We would love to have the support of the city to put our best foot forward when we are bringing these people from all over the state. So thank you for letting me speak today.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Alexander. I'm the chairman of the 5 Points Alliance. For about 7 or 8 years now, our organization has worked as a community development organization in the middle of 5 Points South. You know as best as the people who produce the St. Patrick's Day Parade every March. Thank you for your support of that every year. We're also responsible for having brought the entertainment district status to 5 Points South and are tasked with managing that entertainment district under the city ordinance. Our organization did the legwork that resulted in our own master plan being adopted into the city center master plan almost verbatim a few years ago. And we've worked with the city on the north side, south side framework plan very closely. I've been involved with Southtown redevelopment. We're deeply enmeshed. It's a group of stakeholders, but we're all volunteers. Nothing we've ever done has resulted in money coming to anybody who serves on our board. And that's hard to accomplish a lot in 5 Points South. Volunteer time of people who have full-time jobs like me. But this bid initiative to expand what the bid does downtown to include the south side of downtown and bring these two ends of our downtown district together again, up and down 20th Street. It's what we've been working for in 5 Points South for so long that we've never been able to get momentum. COVID came along, we lost that momentum. Well, what's changed? What's going to work now? We've got new property owners that are coming to 5 Points South. You've seen the buildings going up, multi-story buildings, 17-story buildings. Vesta Court building. My friends David and Brother Silverstein that are here today as well. And they're investing in the neighborhood recently. Investment of LMS management and redoing the trade towers and bringing it back to life. All these things have now given us the base where we can really have an assessment that can produce the kind of results that CAP produces downtown. I hope you'll give us our support. Thanks.
Thank you. And there are other supporters here from the business district. If you raise your hand or stand up and wave if you are someone who is a property or business owner in the district. So stand over there. Thank you. If you go to the first slide, I want to frame this tool, Business Improvement District, in a graphic that is really familiar to people who work on downtown revitalization or business improvement district revitalization. And it gives you a sense of all of the activities you really have to be driving forward in order to have a good thriving urban business district. But you see these are building blocks at the bottom, as clean and safe. You really are limited at what you can do and all the rest of it. That perception of clean and safe is not what you want it to be. And so you build off of that with events and marketing, beautification and capital projects, recruitment, retention and development and advocacy. But what the circles represent, and hopefully this helps you as we talk about the bids, are the organizational tools and resources that can be brought to those different types of activities. And you can see that business improvement districts have the potential to impact a lot of the building blocks. And as you move on up that building block, it begins to sort of trade off with tax increment financing, downtown redevelopment authority types of tools. So with that, if you'd advance to the next slide. We've already had explained to you, a business improvement district is a district management corporation created by the city council after petition from 50% or more of the property owners in an area by value of that district. And like I said, think of it as a homeowners association for a collection of properties. They are assessed and contribute in, and those resources are collectively poured into the collective benefit of the area. If you go to the next
Before you move on, there was a question about this. So
Any other tax?
that special assessment is collected annually, and how is that collected?
It is collected annually by the Business Improvement District itself, the staff of the Business Improvement District, which is, I'll get to at this point, Rev's or staff. They're their own organization, but they hire us essentially to run the organization. So we don't run it through the county collection or anybody else. We actually send out and collect ourselves. So it's an important tool for empowering business and property owners for sustaining district-wide vibrancy and revitalization. If you continue. There is a very prolific tool. Over 1,000 of these exist across the country. And in many cities, there are multiple of these. If you're in Milwaukee, there are 43 different business improvement districts around the city of Milwaukee, 27 in Atlanta. We have the one here that was established in 1994. If you continue. What it can do, these are a list of some of the state-enabled powers that a bid can engage in. These are the activities. Supplemental services in terms of security and sanitation is usually the starting point and where most bids focus. And supplemental is underlined because it is intended to be a value add. It's not a replacement of city's public services. It is something that is brought to enhance those things. But you can see there are a number of other things that bids can do to impact the district. You continue. It is created after that 50% of property owners by value record their support. You as the council will hold a hearing, a public hearing, which right now we're hoping for the 12th of December, and is advertised as such, where you would consider the adoption of the ordinance and the baseline services agreement, which, as Jim explained, is an agreement that just says the city is not going to reduce its own services because of the existence of it. If the ordinance is adopted, a 60-day period will commence after that, where anyone who wants to organize will stop the bid from happening. 50% of property owners by number could organize and try to stop it, but that they have 60 days in order to do that. Once that happens, then we can begin to set up the district management corporation or expand it. So continue, please.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Captain Clark.
So, David, I hear you that 50% is sort of the threshold to be able to move forward to create this assessment that will apply to everyone within the district, I guess, based on some sort of millage formula or something.
That's correct, and we'll get to that. Yeah.
Okay, so what happens if they refuse to pay it? Let's say the public hearing takes place, we move forward. What happens if people refuse
Well,
to pay?
state law empowers the district management corporation to have the ability to put a lien on property if they don't pay, much like if a contractor doesn't get, you could have a mechanics lien or something like that on a property. So if they don't pay, there will be a lien, levied on the property. If they ever decide to sell or something, then that lien would exist.
So, okay. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. The current bid is this boundary that you see on the map here, which is basically 16th Street to 22nd Street, BJCC to 5th Avenue South, 18th to 22nd South. There's been, since the beginning, 1 mil of an assessment. I'll talk about the mill in just a minute on this district. So it raises, as you can see, $1.3 million directly from property value, property owners in that district to deploy what it does. And if you go to the next slide, what is it doing? As stated, the most familiar program is the CAP program, being the state program. And you can see some statistics from recent CAP activities, including the walk and bike patrols, but 283 instances of removing graffiti, over 4,500 instances of cleaning up street clutter, including stuff left over from homeless encampments, street outreach to the unhoused people to try to help people get the resources, and beautification projects and branding. So a lot of things are happening that you may or may not know about that the CAP is taking care of, but that is some recent stats from their activities. If you go forward. Well, why is Rev here? Just explain that. As I explained before, Rev is hired by the bid to manage the bid. And so because we do have an understanding and expertise in it, we were also asked by these community leaders to help them come up with the feasibility and study the feasibility of the bid expansion into their areas. Continue. So what are the areas we're talking about? The switch, what we're calling the switch, is the innovation area around Innovation Depot. Right here on the edge is Innovation Depot, is 16th Street, and 4th Avenue north to the north, the railroad tracks to the south, going all the way to the interstate. We have 59% support registered by property owners for this bid expansion. To continue. As you know, this was a district that was considered an essential part of the city center master plan in 2019. And if you continue on, it was also jointly had some additional planning work done with the Civil Rights District and the whole city center northwest downtown quadrant, which came up with some more strategies. And every time it was, if you go to the next slide, affirmed that if we want to see the kind of development occur in that area, there are a number of things that need to be done, but certainly addressing the sense of safety and cleanliness is one of the key things. Do you continue? This is the 5 Point South boundary that we have developed. The core of 5 Point South is right here on this edge, but it goes all the way over to Elton B. Stevens Expressway, taking in the business, the office buildings, the development, the sort of newer development that's happening over on that east side. Takes in Southern Research Institute, and currently we stand at 54% support registered from the property owners. If you would continue. Again, as Steve said, this was also delineated in the master plan as a key area connecting a lot of dots with what's happening with Southern Research, the former Southtown, and the core. If you continue. And the public engagement here has suggested that these are priorities for the area: security, parking, lighting, marketing, promotion, business recruitment, and transportation. You continue. So it is governed by a board of directors of property owners. The last action, y'all will act, and from that point on, it's all property owners that are invited onto the board to govern it. The board, by state law, has to have at least 1/3 of those property owners are small property owners, so they're just not dominated by all of just big property owners. So there is this legal separation and representation of big and small property owners. The current bid board, and this is fine to stay there, the current bid board will add members of the board from these districts. But each of these districts will have their own priorities, and so there will be committees that will essentially set the priorities for how the money from those districts needs to be spent and deployed after kind of an overhead is paid by every district. So it allows and empowers the local districts to set their own priorities, but also allows the opportunity to share a lot of efficiencies. No need to buy 2 trucks or 3 trucks for everything or other equipment, and you save a lot of, we think, money in terms of being able to manage these together. Please continue. The assessment is on property owners. The state law allows you to assess really all property owners within the district except for government-owned properties. Governments cannot be assessed, with the exception being that if you as a government are leasing your property to some for-profit business, then that is assessable because it would essentially pass through the business. The bid's practice has been to never assess nonprofit or religious property, so that would continue under this ordinance amendment. So churches and others do voluntarily contribute at times, but they're not going to be assessed specifically. If you would like to continue. The millage rate is the assessment tool. As you know, a mill is basically $1 for every $1,000 worth of value assessed onto a property determined by the Jefferson County's tax assessor. So whatever the Jefferson County tax assessor says is the value, that is how the value is set. We don't decide that. In these expansion districts, the proposal has been to charge 3 mills, because these are much lower density areas. The property values are much smaller than the downtown. We have the big tall buildings and a lot of density and a lot of value. So in order to prop up enough services, we determined that we had to have at least 3 mills on those, as opposed to the 1 mill on the downtown bid. If you would continue. So the highest priorities in 5 Point South: visible, uniform, clean, safe ambassadors, cleaning services, using our tools to analyze crime and litter trends throughout, and of course helping to manage the entertainment district. If you continue. This is a draft budget. It has to, of course, be adopted by the board, but we need to come up with the feasibility of if we were to do this, what would we raise? We estimate $854,000 could be raised annually at this point based on property values in 5 Points South. And so we have developed, based on those priorities, a budget that would put into place clean and safe services, some marketing, but also in this case, a district manager who would be a full-time person dedicated solely to helping the businesses in that community with the needs that they have there. So that's the proposed budget as a starting point for 5 Points South. If you continue. This is an example of how you might deploy the people in doing the cleaning, the safety, ambassadors. Our homeless outreach person would certainly be involved there, which is very important, and our team leads in operations. If you continue. In the switch, similarly, visible presence of clean and safe ambassadors, cleaning up the district services, litter pickup, helping to analyze crime, and then some branding and marketing. It is not an entertainment district, so it's not, they're not going to have to worry about that. But if you continue, what you'll see from the budget is that area is so lower density and it's so underdeveloped at this point that the values are not very high. And that makes it a struggle when the values are not very high to put an assessment on that would give you enough dollars to do something. And we think we're just maybe there. As you can see, we are hoping for at least $30,000 of other contributions to sort of help get that budget to where it's sustainable. And we're hoping for growth in that area, which will add more resources over time. If you go to the next slide, the services there needed are a little less robust than 5 Points, which is, is a very high trafficked area. But that is deemed to be acceptable right now by the experts that look at these things. So if you continue. So here's where we are as we sort of close out the presentation. We have gone through all of the check mark pieces. We have done feasibility. We've done stakeholder engagement. We're really at this point now where the council will need to consider to allow the formation of this bid, the expansion of this bid to occur. And after that, then members will be added to the board and assessments will begin. And we'll try to start delivery of services as soon as possible if you continue. So, again, December 12th is the target. I believe Jim Stanley and Lee Johnson, the attorney on behalf of the board, have talked about there will have to be an action on the 5th to set the public hearing for the 12th, and maybe another set of actions on the 5th. But all those documents will be coming to you subsequent to this presentation. And again, after that, 60 days to wait, and if it's approved, we are working on how we can begin to, using some of the resources of the existing business improvement district to sort of front end the services so that almost like giving a loan to yourself so that we can get the services started as soon as possible and then pay that back over time as the assessments come in. So that is our goal at this point. If you go, the final slide is just, again, the boundaries. A bid is not the silver bullet solution for everything, but it is a very powerful tool that helps to enable public-private partnerships. And this is the private sector pooling resources to hopefully help support the public sector with what it needs to do in these areas as well. And as you know, as you can tell from the proliferation across the country of these, it's a very powerful and useful tool. So with that, we can have any questions?
Okay, so just to reiterate, this is an introductory overview, but this will be coming back to the council. We're planning on December 12th for the amendment of the city ordinance and baseline services agreement. So ultimately, this will come up for the council on the 12th. So, Council Moore.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Just had one question, and you probably shared this, and I just missed it. Annually, how much would you all be collecting?
The estimate in 5 Points South is that district at 3 mills could produce around $854,000 based on last year's tax assessment.
Gotcha.
And in the switch, it's much lower because it's a much lower density and lower value area. And there, it's about $157,000 we estimate right now.
Okay. And then you talked about the board for this as well. How would people, or who's on the board, or how would folks be chosen?
The current board is a 15 members of the existing bid. We would be adding more board members. The board recently amended its bylaws to allow for this, so we can have up to 21 board members, and they would be required that some of them be from 5 Point South, represent 5 Point South properties, and some representing Switch District property owners. That's pretty much it. I think. It is a board that does have its own powers of appointment, which means that the board will ultimately consider nominations of the board and make the appointment.
Okay. I was trying to figure out if it's also going to be made up of those businesses that may have been smaller.
Well, that requirement, that state law requirement, the owner be at least a third of those board members be representing the small property owners.
Councilor Clark?
Yeah, I was wondering about the 50%, and I saw there that it's based on value, not on number of parcels or land mass.
Right.
So it does strike me that, and I want to just thank the landowners for being willing to assess themselves to, add this layer of service to make our these areas better. But it does strike me that a lot of people with underdeveloped properties that have lower value may not be factoring in. So I'm just wondering, what is the notice provision in the statute or the ordinance? How do we let them know about the public hearing?
Mailing going out.
So does REV do that, or does the city do that?
We are doing that on behalf of the city.
Okay.
And I've talked about how to do that properly.
Okay.
And actually, my team has been stuffing those mailers the last couple of days, and they're going out as we speak.
Okay.
So that's a 20-day requirement, which is why the reason why the 12th is the date of the public hearing, so that we can have the 20-day required.
Okay, so we're gonna have a bunch of unhappy people come and complain about this, but anyway, likely, but, because, people tend to think,
Think they
well,
resist?
they're already paying for it, but I feel like it's a fair process, and this is very needed, and it's been very successful. And I do remember years ago, we tried in 5 Point South, but it would have, it was trying to, get enough collected to sort of stand up another CAPS. And so the efficiency of basically using the infrastructure you already have and then just, growing it more incrementally, I think is really smart and is going to be very effective. So if we can get it passed.
Councilor Abbott?
Well, I'm expecting a lot more happy people to come to the hearing than grumpy ones. Now, we've got a few grumps, so I can know them, but I won't. And some of them own significant pieces of property that are worth a lot of money, but they're still grumps.
And they'll benefit.
And that's their right. They'll benefit, but they'll also have to pay. So I think this is great. It has been a long time coming because the grumps have been winning for a long time. So don't invite them. Let them invite them and they'll get ask them to make. So, but yeah, this is great. This is great for 5 Point South because we've got issues.
Yeah.
Big issues in 5 Points. Parking is an issue that the bid ended up being able to fix, but we have a lot. Of course, we have the homeless issue that's not on here, but we have big issues there, and I think people probably finally got fed up.
Well, I agree with you. I think it's going to be great. We can
We're
get it
going to have all
passed.
the happy people here. Like Steve, we're going to have all the happy people.
Councilor Smithman?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all. I know Mr. Silverstein, Mr. Alexander, maybe 2 years ago, you guys had a meeting. I can't remember whose office it was, and you guys were talking about getting the cabs. So I know it's been at least 2 years in the making, and there were property owners, because it took them a while to get over the threshold. I think even Mayor Woodford knows about this. Like, they were right there, and there was just some big property owners that were like, oh, the city, we pay our tax dollars out, and we kept telling them, this is very beneficial for you if you want to protect your property. And so I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be great. Our law firm is downtown, and the presence they have makes me feel so safe. As a young black woman, I'm closing up my office at night, so I think we'll see a big improvement in the crime. just the cleanliness, homelessness. I really want to commend 5 Points South. You guys go above and beyond for your neighborhood. So I can't wait for us to tell them about it tonight. And, starting in April in the summer, we should see some changes. So, and thank you, Mr. Fleming.
Councilor Tate?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Fleming, what's this blueprint? Is there any future goals to represent the north side?
Yeah,
So something like this expanding throughout those other business districts?
Well, state law allows for this kind of tool to be used anywhere where property owners would like to collectively, basically assess themselves. The real requirements are, is there enough economic value or activity that you could put an assessment and raise enough resources to do things? But it really starts with the engagement. What does the community want? What would it want to pay for, and what would that cost? And then you assess the value. I will mention that he's not here, but Councilor Williams engaged us a couple of years ago to look at the area around, where it's now Amazon and Old Eastwood Mall to be a potential business for the district. We did a feasibility study there, and we determined that one of the challenges in business is when you have so many property owners that are not here, they're somewhere else, they just don't have the same engagement. It was very difficult to see a path forward there, but it could change. It took a long time to find points, and you could get there. We were also engaged by the airport authority recently to do a feasibility study of a bid around the airport, not just the sort of Woodlawn Gateway, but all the way around the north side. I mean, could you take in all that business property and do that? And we determined that it's very feasible. It would be a very feasible bid to do that. We just have not been able to yet take the next step to sort of help the community or the airport before we kind of had this fire started raging. We kind of had to really get here, but we're certainly willing to help look at that for any community that might want.
Mr. President, to Mr. Just adding on to Mr. Fleming's answer to Councilor Tate's question, you got at least a minimum of 3 business districts, probably one more in District 9, but I asked David right as Attorney Stanley was speaking how many districts. I knew it was 20-something. It's 26 exactly. So if I'm correct, each of you has at least one business district. Each of you has at least one small business district in your district, city council district that is. And each is unique in the businesses that make up that district, what they offer, etc. One is a hybrid. You have a lot of chains, national chains, but you also have local. I would say for you, whether it's Pratt, whether it's Ansley, whether it's Birmingham, majority of yours are local. And so issues exist differently in all, but if this is a conversation you all want to have, because I imagine you all looking at Switch, looking at 5 Points South, and saying, hey, what about me? He just made an offer, so take him up on it.
Thank you.
So, we often are posed with the question, what is the city doing to impact, these areas? This is a tool that it's a framework for collaboration amongst the property owners. And, it does it in a way that's equitable to everyone, and it's a fair and democratic process. We just, put our stamp of approval on it, but the city never sees any of the money. It goes straight to, the property owner's representation. So for any folks who may be listening, this is one of the tools in the toolbox that you have available to you. We can't do this to you. You have to do it for yourselves. So.
Just to add to your point, Mr. President, if you look at downtown North Birmingham, so I'll pick on District 9 again. North Precinct as a police hub station sits right in the middle of a business district. But there are no actual, how do I say this? There are no officers at the precinct. They're out among beats around the entire north quadrant of the city. So a small business owner may say, hey, I want more police presence, or better yet, why isn't there more police presence at the precinct right here? There may be an expectation that an officer is just supposed to be available, but that's not how beats work. However, this does, just using this as an example, hypothetically, if this was created there, this would be beneficial to offset that expectation, or better manage that expectation through a public-private partnership, which I think can include up to off-duty officers if need be. If I take what you said this morning, that's literally what I'm thinking about as far as some small business owners in 5 Points South saying that if this precinct is right in our backyard, why isn't there more presence? Well, same example. Those officers are spread out among South. They're not sitting at the actual precinct. So I think this would be amazing. I think it's a game changer for 5 Points South.
Mr. President, may I make one comment?
Sure.
I'm David Silverstein. Nice to be with you. I don't want this meeting to end without commending Rev. This process has been a long time coming, and it's been my pleasure, I know I speak for Steve, working with David and his entire team to help facilitate this. We are so fortunate in this city to have Rev Birmingham as a partner to deal with issues just like that. Councilor Abbott, we had 2 public hearings where we showed this information to the community at large. Anyone could come. His team put together the information, conducted the hearings, and mostly after individuals who came saw the information, had a better understanding of what this is all about, they went from grunt to support. They really did. But my point is this: thank you to Rev and to his entire team for being part of what we have in this city. We benefit greatly from you, David.
You know, I have to say that without the local property owners selling other property owners, doesn't matter what I say. So really, it's a partnership.
Yeah, thank you. Your team is just outstanding. I remember when this gentleman was with OMB, and downtown Birmingham was true frontier. And no one can question your passion for making this city a better place to live and work, so thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Here.
Well, and as I said before, we would be happy to look at other areas and help other places consider this as a possibility for them. The times it takes, it's been 25, almost 30 years since one was created. It's almost like we need to get another one done that would help get some momentum in some other areas and say, hey, we need to do this too. So I hope that happens.
Quickly. So I know that you, glad that you said, you would love to be able to see that be created in other areas. I know you made mention of the airport possibly being a space where we could, kind of build upon that. I know that, kind of falls within the Woodlawn area where you all are based, Rev Birmingham. And so would love to be able to see something, I don't even know if the airport's support would be able to extend to the business district in the Woodlawn area.
Yes, sir. As state law says, it does not have to be a contiguous bit. Meaning, if there was airport and then maybe a gap for the neighborhood and the business district of Woodlawn all agreed to come together, that's possible legally. And I think that would probably have to be the way it would go because, and I was more encouraged looking at the airport values because there's a significant amount that could be leveraged there. Woodlawn by itself would struggle to have enough property value, to make a real, to pop up a real good effort. But maybe together they could.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you on the 12th.
So how's that work?
All right, next up, we have,
For you to hit a public.
Recommended.
Okay, so, we'll entertain a motion to, move forward with this process and have a public hearing on December 12th.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. All All right, next up, we have, agreement with Birmingham Southern College, and Mayor Woodson will be presenting.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Cool. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you for allowing me to present this topic discussion before you related to Birmingham Southern Agreement. I want to start with August 15th, a few months ago, just to remind you that through the Education Committee and then passed to the entire council, there was a resolution number 1326-23 in support of funding to and for Birmingham Southern College. Just a key notes and some of those whereas clauses to remind this body. The City of Birmingham enthusiastically supports the education community due to its positive economic impact to the local economy, workforce development, and quality of life of our citizens. And whereas Birmingham Southern College, as determined by economist Mr. Daravi, because that is not how you pronounce his last name, is responsible for an annual economic impact to Jefferson County of $70.5 million and $26.8 million to other counties within the state of Alabama. And then be it further resolved, line, that the anticipated annual economic impact of Birmingham Southern College be used towards the ongoing expansion of city services, neighborhood revitalization, and meaningful public-private partnerships that enhance the quality of life of all Birmingham citizens. This then was voted on by the entire council. And so before you today, I'm going to give an overview first and then open it up for questions. There is a request to provide up to $5 million in the form of two $2.5 million loans to Birmingham Southern College. The first loan will be available immediately and could be forgivable, while the second loan to be paid out of next year is not forgivable and will be backed by a security interest in the property on the campus. The city's loan would be coupled with two other loans that include the United Methodist Church of $2.5 million and another loan from private funders in the amount also of $2.5 million. Related to the legal authority of the mayor and this council and the city of Birmingham, it comes through the city's incentive in Amendment 772, which allows the city to provide a thing of value to a private business in support of the economic development of the city. What I want to share next is the economic development basis, which includes the following. I think it's a good place to start with business retention, and that is for Birmingham Southern College continued operation. You heard Cornell Wesley speak this morning, but we as an administration believe that retaining and expanding an existing business is a common economic development strategy. And it is typically less expensive and time consuming than trying to recruit a new one. And so as an existing organization in our community, we think it's beneficial that it remains where it is and remains operational. There's more certainty in dealing with the businesses you can see versus pursuit of a business that doesn't already exist. As well as the success of an existing business is evidence of its economic viability of an area, which I've described earlier, but to give some more detail, Birmingham Southern College has approximately 700 students and directly employs approximately 292 individuals. It's about 1,200 indirect. That leads to a direct spending of around $45 million per year. And the city receives an average of roughly $200,000 per year in direct tax revenue from Birmingham Southern College. But there's also business expansion, workforce development, which we believe falls under 772. As you have spoken with President Coleman, he has mentioned and shared with you all their not willingness, but their plan to expand their master's degrees and offering up to 4 more popular programs. And it has been reported that there are approximately 1,100 job openings in data science in our city alone. So when you include these 4, data science, computer science, cybersecurity, and information systems, These will not only be graduates of a institution within our city limits, but they could be gainfully employed within our city. I think there is a question, why help Birmingham Southern? I want to go through it with you, some answers. This is the only private four-year college in our city. That's not a secret to anybody. But their presence of a small liberal arts college provides an educational option that is not otherwise available within our city limits. Two, and this is the one I want to go a little deeper on, Birmingham Southern College is an anchor of two significant, historically, communities within our city. The two neighborhoods are Bush Hills as well as College Hills. I am trying to imagine a West End without a Princeton hospital, and that is something I could not see. It is unfortunate, but I think the residents of Fountain Heights, Druid Hills, Norwood, and North Birmingham for well over a decade saw what happened when Caraway Hospital closed. And those neighborhoods were different before, and we've seen what's happened since. We are excited for the revitalization effort on that site, but the residents of Bush Hills and College Hills don't deserve an anchored institution of that size and that many acres within those two neighborhoods to be abandoned. If you will, consider any neighborhoods within any of your districts that had an anchor institution, be it Crossplex, be it Legion Field, be it Princeton as an example, or any other anchor institutions on the eastern side of town or the southern side of towns. These anchor institutions literally sit in the middle of neighborhoods. So when people say you're taking away money from neighborhoods, I have a full dispute with that, because that is not the case. Keeping an anchor institution open allows for continued growth within the footprint of that neighborhood, where residents and or non-residents come and work every day and leave, and there are other small businesses around these anchor institutions that actually support and provide services for these, however many employees are on these anchor institution sites. Not to mention the following. We were just awarded a $50 million grant from HUD within this footprint. And so considering that as it relates to everything we want to do in Smithfield, College Hills, and Graymont, the Arkadelphia exit is the entrance and gateway into those three neighborhoods by way of interstate. And so not being in a position to support this anchor institution would be going in the opposite direction of the momentum we're trying to build with this $50 million grant in this community. The last note I would say is this. Other major institutions in the Western Quadrant include, I've stated a few, but I'll name them again. Legion Field, which is 1.4 miles away. Brookwood Baptist Health Princeton, which is 1.7 miles away. Crossplex, 2.6 miles away. And this is worth repeating, but the loss of any institution in such close proximity to these other developments, I believe, could strike a blow in everything we're trying to do west of 65. So, as stated, Councilor Tate, well, and I'll go with you too, Mr. President, that if you need recent evidence of what happens when an anchor institution closes, look no further than Caraway Hospital. This is something in our purview that we can support. This is something that we should support. I'm grateful for this council for actually exhausting debate around this, asking tough questions around this. But this is the right thing to do, and it's something I stand on. I know some may give you pushback, and I know some have actually given you pushback. But ask the residents of College Hills and ask the residents of Smith and Bush Hills about how they would feel if this anchor institution closed within their neighborhoods. With that, Mr. President, we can do this one of two ways. You can have Mr. Coleman or any of his designees come up now, or you can present questions based on what I presented, and he can come up, however you would like to do it, sir.
I think we would like to have President Coleman come and present.
Good afternoon. Thank you for all the work all of you put into this request, the mayor's office, as well as all the councilors. We obviously, I think it's really important to our future to get this funding and to continue working on private funding to stabilize the institution for the long run. As the mayor said, we're an important part of the west side of Birmingham. We love being in the west side of Birmingham. But also, as I've talked to many of you, I think we can provide a lot of workforce development in the future for the jobs that we need to attract to Birmingham. I'd be glad to take any questions you have.
All right. We'll get to the question. I just want to bring up, Councilor Williams is not here to speak directly to this, but one example that you left out of your examples that you brought up is Baptist Montclair on Montclair Road.
That's correct.
For folks who live, in proximity to that building, we know that Baptist Montclair left and went to Grandview, and it did have a significant impact on that area of town, and fortunately, there was a solution that came in and has addressed that area before it got to the same extent that, for example, Caraway got to. But I just wanted to add that
Yes, sir.
as a relevant example. So, questions?
Excuse me, I want to introduce our chair, Reverend Keith Thompson.
Pro Tem Alexander?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank you, President Coleman, and thank you also for your board chair for coming today and working with the city of Birmingham to answer some of the questions that were asked of you in August and throughout this process. I do want to also make note of some of the things that you would like to do to improve some of the connection you have to the western section and to residents in the city of Birmingham. I'm most excited to see the scholarship provision for Birmingham City Schools, as well as the workforce development that you're going to provide by opening up these additional master's programs. So what do you feel would be the timeline for that as far as being able to implement this once this money is provided to you?
Well, we've started with the master's program already. We had our first cohort in the fall. In January, we'll get an additional cohort. It's a 6-semester program, so every semester we get a new cohort. In about a year's time, we're going to add another master's, and then about a year's time another. So it'll take 4 years to build up the whole program. But our hope is we can have at least 1,000 students in the program over time and keep those students or attract those students to here in Birmingham, North Alabama. As far as the scholarship program, we can implement that for the fall, next fall.
Thank you. I know that these type jobs and this training will be very, very beneficial to residents to improve quality of life, to make opportunities for families as they exist here, and just knowing that you are an important part, a vital part of that community. So again, I thank you for the work that you've done to make those considerations and to bring this to the table. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Councilor Woods?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the structure of it. I think you've got it broken into 2 loans. Just explain, I guess, under what terms is the loan forgivable? Loan number 1.
Yeah, it's Ms. Smiley is going to come up and she's going to bring some of the attorneys up as well.
Good afternoon, Counselor. Melissa Smiley from the Mayor's Office. I would like to invite Jim Stanley. He's been the attorney for the City of Birmingham that has been reviewing the documents, and he's very familiar with the terms, so I'd like him to explain that to you.
Yes, so the terms are, again, there are two loans, each $2.5 million. One, as the mayor said, is available immediately. That loan is forgivable if the college opens for classes next fall. The second loan will have a 20-year term, and the loans are secured by some obligations issued under a master trust indenture involving Synovus Bank. Those obligations themselves are secured by a second mortgage on the campus property. So assuming the worst, the university did not open in the fall, then mortgage could be foreclosed on, there'd be a sale, and all the investors, including the city, stay in the second position for the payout from proceeds.
Yeah, I just add, I mean, I appreciate President Coleman, when we talked, it was like 18, I don't know how long it's been going around, but we've had a lot of conversations. We've definitely become one of the hardest working, if not the hardest working person in the area. So I definitely appreciate the work you put in. You know, I know, one thing was I really wanted to see the state take some action first. I think it's pretty well documented. Kind of how that went and how that played out. I'm glad, was disappointed in how that happened. But I think, the mayor eloquently structured some really good points that are very valid. We have, unfortunately, seen firsthand, what holes in communities do and how hard they are to fill. And so we definitely want to see every opportunity for y'all to be successful. The administration did a good job of structuring this in a way where the city is protecting the back end, but also give y'all the opportunity to kind of get forward. So I do I think that was a very good item coordinated on there. So I think that kind of gets closer to the state and come through. So keep working.
Thank you, Mr. Wood, we will, and I think it makes a strong case at this stage.
Councilor Tate?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo my colleagues and kind of like piggyback off what Mayor Wood said about Caraway. Growing up on 25th Street North, leaving the city for almost a decade, coming back, seeing, the destruction of Caraway, working for the public defender's office, and seeing how people just really destroyed, that hospital, still in copper and all of that, and the devastation that it does, have on community. Caraway raised a lot of families and gave a lot of people in that area jobs. So my family worked at Caraway, retired from Caraway. I remember running up 21st Street, going through to the 10th floor to get ice cream at Char House. So the impact that it does have on the community, and sitting down, having an opportunity, to speak with you and giving us those blueprints for each district, the things that, tutoring and all of the things that you guys are willing to have your students deploy, back into the neighborhood and help those. And like Madam President said about the scholarship. So again, I'm going to echo what Councilman Wood said, you helped me right. And on the ground, and then thank you to the mayor and his team for laying out, a blueprint. I know this is exciting for Councilor Clark because she has, stake in that area where she lives in. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Clark?
Thank you. I don't have a question for you, really, because I feel like you briefed me a lot, and I appreciate that. And as Councilor Wood says, you do work very hard, and I think you deserve to be Man of the Year, no matter what happens. But I did want to ask the mayor about, I think the structure seems reasonable. I know in the past, when the city has worked with the college, we didn't have 772, so there were all these land purchases and all kinds of things, but 772 seems to make it pretty straightforward. The funding source, is it the same for both parts? And can you tell us about the funding source?
Yes. So, Mr. President, to Councilor Clark's question, as you all know, we have a general fund account. That's what you all pass every July 1. Well, pass for the fiscal year that starts July 1 of every year and ends June 30th of every year. It is not coming out of that fund. As you know, there are two other reserve funds we have, one being our rainy day account and the other being our general reserve fund. These two sources of loans are coming out of our general reserve.
General reserve.
General fund reserve.
General fund reserve.
Okay. Okay, do we have any rules about how that can be used? I just don't know what that is.
The rules around the rainy day account, as you all know, are supermajority. Is it 2/3?
Yes.
6 out of 9 would have to vote. In the case of our general reserve fund, the answer is no.
Okay.
There are no rules as it relates to how many people need to vote or what can actually be voted out of it.
How much is in that fund?
That fund has, to be exact, $289,138,000 and some change.
Okay.
I think Mr. President.
So we're not broke.
We're not, Mr. President. Let's see, Madam Chairwoman of BNF, Dean, and former Chairwoman, I think we've been good stewards of our reserve accounts. I think our priorities have been in line with your priorities. No, well, while we're here, the Birmingham Fund, which is separate from this fund, has 101 million. So that's 289 million plus 101 million combined, two reserve accounts. Chaz, you're quick. What's that?
389.
389.
390.
390. So, good question, though.
Councilor,
Yeah, I would just like to say, full disclosure, I went back to Birmingham Southern 25 years after I graduated from Auburn and got my master's degree, so I'm prejudiced. And if we get part of the campus, I want to like. But the thing I want to say, number one, is to President Coleman, I know you probably feel like you want on paper hand after all the work that you've done on trying to save the school, and you didn't have anything to do with the problems. I saw some of the problems when I was there, and then they came to fruition. So I'm 100% in favor of this, and I think that it's probably has a lot to do with Caraway. Not just the fact that I went to Birmingham Southern, and it's, what we all just rated number 4 in the nation.
I think in the South.
Yeah, for liberal arts colleges, so that's pretty amazing when you're in financial trouble and you're worried about keeping your doors open, that you're still rated in the top 10. But I think that after seeing Caraway and seeing what people did to that, you know, it looked like a third world nation over there that had just had a civil war. Well, imagine moving that over into the western section and having 2 of them. You know, to me, it was just horrifying. I mean, my neighborhood was upset when the ark moved. Look how little it was. So the fact that Birmingham Southern is, what, 252 acres? Something close
to 200.
Yeah, it's a lot. So the fact that all that would be sitting there just waiting for the thieves and whatever other kind of people went to Caraway, you know, that's just horrifying to me. All those historic buildings with their windows broken out, you know, I have a vivid imagination and I could see it. And so I'm in favor of doing this. Birmingham Southern is good for Birmingham's reputation. It makes us look good. And we need that, along with all the other things we need, like an educated populace, and the fact that y'all are going into technology when you're at liberal arts college, well, that just goes to show that everybody can change. So I just think that this is a good idea. And I wish my grandson was still in town to get this master's degree down here in cybersecurity, because I think it might need one of those too. Anyway, I'm in favor of it. I think that Birmingham Southern is one of our great assets. and we just need to hang on to it. And I know Carol Clark believes that, because she doesn't want a big old missing tooth in her district. And it would be a big missing tooth. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, I also appreciate all your hard work on this, President Coleman. I want to particularly thank you for making space for Birmingham City Schools graduates and setting aside some scholarships specifically for Birmingham City Schools graduates. I think that, you know, helps the city's position. But, you know, I also just am really looking at the choice neighborhood funding opportunity, and having followed that over time and knowing that, you know, part of our success there was identifying all of the partners and collaborators that were physically located in that area, and Birmingham Southern was, you know, one of the folks that was top of that list. And I think if we were to let this, you know, slip by us, I would suspect HUD would be giving us the side eye. So
Couple side eyes, sir.
yeah, right. So it just, you know, on so many levels, I think there's it makes sense. And so with that, I think we need to entertain a motion, or Councilor Smithman.
Yes, I have just one or two questions. How will this affect us going to the bond market, us coming out of the general fund or something?
No, ma'am.
No?
It will not. Her question, did you hear her question? No, it will not.
Okay. And God forbid everything doesn't work out with the state, will you all still be able to stay afloat with our money and everybody else's loans?
We'll have to see. We're working on other alternatives, but we're still engaged with the state, and so we have some time to figure this out. It's not a straight answer on that, but we're hopeful that the state will reconsider, especially when they see this.
Okay. How likely do you think it would be that you would be able to open your doors in the fall as well?
I think it's better likely than not, but this is the big question we're working on, and we want to make sure the city's protected in case we didn't. But this allows us to get through June for sure, and that gives us time to really address these issues.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we send the agreement to the council with our support. Well, I don't know whether I need to add any more to that or not. Is that sufficient?
Yes, along with the budget ordinance, for the transfer.
Along with the budget.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can I say?
The motion passes. Mayor Whitman.
Thank you to each of you. Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Tell your students, remain hopeful, and thank you for your leadership. Mr. President, and to the council, notice to you publicly, the 772 has already been submitted. That was with hope, that was. Now that it has, that public notification has identified a newspaper as well. So that date, that November 28th date, is extremely important. I just wanted to publicly say that, Mr. President.
Yes, so
And
this
council.
will appear on next week's council agenda
Yes, sir.
with the committee of the whole's recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Unanimous.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sure Councilor Williams was here, he would have voted in the affirmative as well.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Global
Next up on our agenda, we
Cut a
have
deal.
an update from Dr. Megan Thomas, Director of Community Development, on the Home for All program.
Yeah, this big. Still big in the ground.
They got that one word in, like nobody was listening.
One word.
That's crazy. This is one of my neighbors from Bush Hills. He's a Birmingham Southern student. I put a
Are you the young,
superstar.
are you the young man in the Birmingham Times article?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Matt Dell.
I'm Randall.
Yeah, he was my next door neighbor. They went to Princeton Academy, Indian Springs, and Birmingham Southern.
Order. Order. Dr. Thomas.
I was gonna say, I mean, I guess we're not as exciting as Birmingham Southern, but that's okay. It's a lot cooler in here now, so I'm okay with that. So we wanted to provide an update, which I provided this update to each of you, but really wanted to just lift it up again so that you're aware of the next steps that we're taking as we're beginning our community engagement phase of the work, which is a really critical component of the work and that we're excited to share with everyone as we move out into the community and start working with folks. If you could go to the next slide. Thank you. Very good, thank you. So just to take us back, all the way back to January, I thought it was important to kind of outline how we got here, where we are today, and then talk a little bit about what the next steps are for how we're going to be moving this program forward. Now, you may recall that we had a very quick turnaround on how this program was going to launch. I chalk that up to me being new in this role and very ambitious about the things that we can do. But we have been moving along month by month and really gaining traction. And I think one of the things that we wanted to do here with this update is really right size where we are, how long it takes for us to get things done. And I think what we'll see is that we've used a level of intentionality and thought in the work that we're doing, in the stakeholders that we're bringing to the table, particularly centering our folks who will be our guests in this process to really arrive at where we have arrived and to take us forward. And so that takes a little bit more time, but I think we'll see at the end of this process that we'll come out with a program, a project, an outcome that we can all be excited about and proud of. And so back in January, we really did a big launch of this program, and we talked about what those pallet shelters were going to look like. We purchased them. You all approved that, and we immediately released our request for proposals for providers who were interested in being a part of this program. So today we're going to talk about who those finalists are, and I'm going to say a little bit more about what that is. We pulled together a committee of stakeholders that work in this field to create not only the RFP, but to come up with the critical components that we wanted to evaluate the RFPs on, and ultimately who would help us select who our finalists were going to be. And they have continued to work with us throughout this process in refining those proposals and considering what the next steps are going to be, and are part of kind of this faculty that are part of launching this program as well. Next slide, please. And so you can see here, we have weekly Home for All committee meetings. So us as a group of stakeholders, we continue to talk about the needs that we see, the ways we want to refine this program, and ultimately have been communicating that with our finalists. We've done site visits with each of the finalists to really see what their sites look like, what might be the needs. We've continued to refine those proposals. We also had to do a separate RFP process for our architects and engineers to be able to go out and evaluate the sites. Ultimately, we are working with David Baker Architects and SARCOR as our architect and engineering team, who have been really great in helping us to pull together what our work plan is, our timeline for what this program will be moving forward, and they're going to be the ones who are going to be helping to lead our design and engineering process as we move forward. We had a kickoff with those folks, and then we've done a number of site visits. So, to get to what everyone's excited about, I hope, who are our finalists. If you go to the next slide, please. So we have 3 finalists, and what finalists means in this program are that these are the folks who had the highest scoring proposals, who we were interested in better understanding what they wanted to do and how they might move those forward, and who we wanted to then take through this process of refinement, of understanding the full scope of their project and services, the full cost of those projects and services. And so ultimately they are finalists because they have not been awarded, but they are folks who we want to consider as awardees. And if you recall, back in January when we talked about this program, I would be very interested in being able to select all 3 if we have the ability to do so based on feasibility, financing, and community acceptability. Because it provides us not only a diversity of locations for our guests to be able to be serviced by, but also a diversity of wraparound service provision to be able to have a full scope of services that maybe have not been gathered in one place for our clientele in the past. And from a pilot perspective, it offers us 3 unique sites to be able to learn from, right? And to see how well they do this work and the things that we want to maintain and sustain, as well as those that we might want to change and overcome. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these organizations because just in case you are not familiar with them, I'm very excited about them. Our team of public service providers are very excited about them, as well as our committee. But first, I'll say a little bit about AIDS Alabama. They're a recognized leader in affordable housing for people living with HIV in Alabama and are known nationally as a proactive, innovative leader in the war against the spread of HIV and AIDS. They manage more than 100 units currently of affordable housing throughout the state, and they believe that they're poised to successfully implement and administer this innovative project. I think one of the things that's really cool about them is that we've been leveraging their service provision for many, many years as a provider who works in this space. Unfortunately, we know that some of our most chronically unsheltered folks are at the intersection of multiple other challenges. One of them is HIV and AIDS, and so we have a group here that really knows this population, that's doing work and is interested in expanding. And so this is our opportunity again for this program to not just be about service provision, but to also be about capacity building for our public service providers, which we need. Next, Faith Chapel. Faith Chapel Care Center, they are proud to be a hub for people experiencing homelessness, providing weekly ministry, limited medical services, shower facilities, free laundry services, computer room, and referral services. They also have said to future residents they want them to know that we're designing this program around the needs and concerns that they have expressed to them through different surveys and community engagement. And they recognize that each person is a unique individual and want to collaborate to develop a care plan that meets people where they are. We thought their program was really compelling because they were leveraging multiple service providers that maybe haven't collaborated in the past to come together to be able to do this wraparound service provision as part of their programming. And then our third site is Urban Alchemy. They are a social enterprise nonprofit organization that provides career pathways for formerly incarcerated, creating sustainable change in urban spaces. They are excited and would say about to their future residents, we're in this together. And they ask that you join them in creating a type of community support systems and services that will help build a better reality for themselves, our city, our neighbors, and for those to come after us. Their vision for Home for All is to create a healing village housing model. This model includes intentionally designed site design and landscaping that creates a peaceful, safe environment for the residents, a service-rich program model with care coordination, life skills and recreational activities, while also being connected to the broader service provider community for collaborative engagement and support. And one of the, I think, unique things about the mix of these folks is that we have 2 folks who have been providing, or 2 organizations that have been providing services in our community, in our state, for a long time, who know our residents and are trying to build their capacity. And we have another organization in Urban Alchemy who has a very high capacity providing services across the country in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland, Austin, Texas, but are interested in understanding and building in a new community and being able to be part of a collaborative cohort with other folks to help and support to build their capacity. And so this really is, again, a model that helps us to serve our community, to serve our residents, the most chronically unsheltered, while also building our capacity to do this work in several ways. Next slide. So as far as the timeline, so we are currently here in our committee meetings, September, October, into November, but we've already begun some of our client interviews, which are public service providers that we've been working with. We're going to begin doing surveying and then community outreach. So we wanted to have this meeting before we began the community outreach that we would be doing because we thought it was important that folks know about it and know where we will be coming. And that will be coming to a community near them soon. But really that is about being able to identify our multi-stakeholders, which are, our neighbors there, our guests and potential clients, as well as public service providers, and then being able to do targeted communication engagement to be able to then inform our design and engineering process, which will then give us the layout as well as what we want to see on each of the individual sites. And then in this time around the spring is when we would be bringing forward our operational budget. So we will then understand what are going to be the cost of those service provisions, what's going to be coming from the organizations, what we would want to leverage as support. Many of these, one of these organizations we already fund, and so we'll be leveraging some of their existing funding to use towards these operations, but understanding what those additional funds will be leveraged for, and then we'll be able to contract the bidding on whatever the construction has to happen on the site. And so this is really a conservative timeline to be able to understand the full scope of how long this process might take to ultimately have some construction and folks being able to move in by the end of the summer. Next slide, please. It's a very similar timeline for Faith Chapel, as they already are a provider that's here, that's in Birmingham, that has a site. And so we would be doing the same thing and looking at about the same timeline with them. And the next slide, please. Thank you. And then Urban Alchemy, if they were to be selected as an awardee, their timeline is a bit more comprehensive because not only during their community outreach and engagement phase would they be thinking about who their clientele are, who they'll be providing services to, but also kind of understanding where might be a space that they would want to leverage for their actual service and village to exist. And that would really depend on between the city, where we would want to see folks, where we would want to spread out those services, right, based on where the other folks are going to be existing, along with their proposal and what amount of services they're going to be taking on, as well as the amount of of shelters that they're going to be providing for folks. And then we kind of have this in multiple phases because not only would they be thinking about their first step service provision through this program, but also we want them to be thinking about their longevity as a service provider in Birmingham. And so thinking that they'll start to think about what other services they would be providing here as part of a more comprehensive plan for long-term sustainability through this program and potentially others. Next. So that is our update. I'll pass it to you, sir.
President, I want to thank Dr. PT and your team for getting us to this point. I will tell you all that the city of Birmingham, we've been fortunate over the last 6 years to have a few things that have been very transformational. But the SHUD $50 million grants one. Birmingham Promise is another. When I think back how long it took, just even Birmingham Promise, there was an actual architectural design to build that before it, and birth it before it could be out there on its own as a standalone nonprofit. That took close to 2 years. I know this HUD grant took right at 2 years work. Like you, I wish this was faster. I wish we could snap our fingers and improve the money and just go up with this. And we put a dent in the number of our neighbors that are not sheltered. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. This has taken way longer than we have wanted it to. And so for that, I genuinely apologize to not just you all, but to the community. We get one chance to get it right. We get one chance to get this right. This is a unique model that if you roll out haphazardly and too fast because we want to get something done, we don't get a do-over. We don't get a second chance of getting this right. So I do want to express that to you, that I want to thank you for your patience, because you all have been very patient with this. But we share however you feel about it and why it's not faster. And the last note before I turn it back to you, Mr. President, but it's to all of you all. I really want to encourage you to be open-minded, and I hope we're in a position to choose all three. I think all three of them have a unique individual skill set and an asset, but combined, they accelerate our opportunity to get it right the first time so we can expand this opportunity. So I wanted to share that.
All right. Anyone have questions? This presentation was mostly for the benefit of the public. Dr. BT, of course, has been meeting with us individually to keep us up to speed on this project. So I think we're all pretty aware of the information that she presented. Thank you for presenting, and we look forward to seeing some of the future phases of the project. Councilor Moore.
I did want to ask whether it was worth, sharing how many people would actually be able to be on each of these different sites.
Yeah, so each of them proposed how many they thought that they could take on based on the wraparound service provision, the size of the site. And so we get to kind of determine what the end outcome will be. So Faith Chapel proposed about 10 to 15 micro shelters on their site. AIDS Alabama proposed 15 to 25. And Urban Alchemy proposed 30 to 60. So they have large capacity to do a lot. And the conversation really has been around, obviously, the site that would be available for these shelters to go, but also what the right size is for our community based on, what we want to see, how we want it to look, and how we want it to feel. I think one of the great things about having such a robust architectural and engineering team is that the design of the space is really going to make it feel like what we want it to feel like, and that's a really important component to not only my team but our larger stakeholder team. To the mayor's point about getting this right, is how do we make these spaces feel healing and supportive for our guests, and how is that a critical component of how we do this work and how we decide what we want to see.
All right. Councilor Abbott.
Have the three finalists each found a site, or have they proposed a site? Is Urban Alchemy the only one that doesn't have a site? Or?
Yes, both AIDS Alabama already have a complex that they provide services out of in the Inslee area. Faith Chapel has a downtown site that they're interested in providing the services on, and Urban Alchemy is one that will be seeking, or are seeking, a site.
But Urban Alchemy would have two sites, or they'll have one site?
We really can determine that. It's going to be based on what we think is the best location for them. So we have not yet determined what their site will be. But we're thinking
Up to, could be. That's not determined. It's very premature. But from a capacity standpoint, it could be up to 2.
Yeah, and I thought I heard you say that they would have 2, or proposed having 2, so I just wondered. So thank you.
Councilor Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank Dr. Thomas and Mr. Stallworth for all the hard work that you guys have and your team have invested in this. I'm just gonna go back when we went to the NLC in Kansas City, where I actually went to a presentation to hear about the pallet shelters. I can remember one night, I think I texted to, that's before we went to NLC, but I was up late one night and was researching, and I sent something to Councilor Smithland and Mr. Datcher about the pallets. But just to know, you know, that all of the things that I heard, you know, even before you guys tagged on at Urban Alchemy, I heard about it in Kansas City. So to know that they are one of the finalists and what they stand for, and I often say this, centering the voices of those that are directly impacted are the solution solvers. And so it's really good, you know, that they will be working collaboratively with, you know, AIDS Alabama and Faith Chapel to leverage our unsheltered individuals. And then I know most people that are released from prisons or jails, it's a lot of collateral consequences affecting them from getting housing. So this can be a great opportunity, you know, for those, because most of the population that's incarcerated is from Jefferson County. Thank you.
Just as a reminder, can you refresh my memory on what the council approved in terms of funding for this project?
Yes, so far, we approved the purchase of the pallet shelters themselves, which incorporated pallet shelter, micro shelters for living, bathroom spaces, ADA accessible bathroom spaces, as well as community spaces. The bid was up to $1 million, but we have not exceeded that in our purchase.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Councilor Abbott.
Okay, so we could have as few as, if all three proposals were accepted, we could have as few as 55 people, as many as 100 people.
That's right.
So when this is successful, when it's a great success, do we intend to expand to try to take in more of these people that are living in the bushes and living on the Vulcan Trail and in the parks and, you know, all the places that they've set up camp?
Well, I think when we think of the most chronically unsheltered folks as our target audience, it is folks who are currently living on the street or not housed by any sort of emergency shelter or transitional housing. And so, yes, that is the population. Obviously, it is for choice, is where we're meeting everyone. And so I think the opportunity here is that it provides stabilization for folks who are ready to have a different opportunity that will give them the wraparound services that they need to get healthy and be prepared to move into some sort of option, hopefully, once the pilot is over.
Right. So just to say that a different way, this isn't intended to be permanent residents.
That's right.
This is really, you know, the step from out of the bushes, you know, into the pallet shelter, but hopefully, you know, getting them into even more stable housing long term.
That's right. And so if you recall, go.
You got those who are not housed, literally on the street. Then you all have supported literally for 6 years in some form of like emergency housing, which is, Birmingham's good at that, right? That exists. This will be a step above that, but not long term, not permanent. Is that fair?
Yes, that's absolutely fair. And research shows that non-congregated housing is something that's more successful, and why that home ARP that we applied for, the pro-housing that we brought before you and applied for, is incorporating that next step of transitional housing that we can hopefully then have folks who are successfully moving out of this pilot program into more permanent supportive housing that they'll be prepared to actually sustain.
Just one final question for Mr.
Pro
President.
Tem Alexander.
And it's not meant to be a trick question, because I know we've all heard the presentation, so we thought our questions probably would be a large number. But I just wanted to find out, in working with our continuum of care, those agencies, what is the last count for point in time?
Yes, so point in time is done annually, and so it's the same number as we've been saying, around 600. Now we also know that that is not the best representation, because that means that we were able to point you and count you. but our chronically unsheltered was about at 300. And so altogether, it's about 900 folks who are experiencing homelessness.
The only reason I asked that, in the large city council's committee meeting in NLC, there was a presentation from the CEO of Invest Alabama, Invest Atlanta. And so she was saying that number for them was around 500. So I was just trying to compare it with the center city core for the city of Atlanta. So I was just trying to see how they compare with us. That's just where we were there on, you probably know this place,
Centennial.
Marietta Avenue, Centennial.
Centennial Park. Oh, I believe
when
you.
you're getting on the freeway there, maybe you just move. Yes, yes. Holding Canyon. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
But that makes no difference. About this
Yes.
many people.
Exactly.
Only half a million
That
people live in the
comparison.
city.
Exactly.
So.
Thank you.
Mr. Prayer, I just want Dr. D to give the next steps, because I know this is just a presentation, but it is an approval that will be coming down the line from community development that I just want everybody to be aware of coming from community development.
Yes, so next steps, we are kicking off a press release to announce who our finalists are, and we begin our actual community engagement with stakeholders that are around the Faith Chapel, around the AIDS Alabama sites, and who might be guests that will be living there, as well as continuing our engineering and design process to come up with what those plans are, design plans, as well as construction plans for each of those sites. So the next thing you'll see is going to be those operational budgets, as well as those construction design costs for each of the sites.
All right. Look forward to it.
Great,
Thank you. All right, next up, we have a brief update on the progress of revamping the food truck ordinance, and that's going to be by attorneys Julie Bernard and Alan Foster from the Office of the City Attorney.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Bernard, a Service Assistant City Attorney in the Office of the City Attorney. And this is going to be a brief update. There has been a team that has been working on this update to the ordinance for some time now, primarily Department of Transportation and OCA. As we all know, our ordinance for food trucks was adopted about 10 years ago. And at that time, food trucks were kind of new to the city, and it was kind of an unknown. There were a lot of concerns around how that operation was going to be. So a lot of those concerns went into developing that ordinance. Since that time, some of those concerns, there's been a shift in some of the businesses that were there and everything, so some of those concerns have gone down. The mayor's office had asked VDOT to refine the permitting process. Initially, the existing process was pretty complicated, and there were different tiers of permits based on where the operators wanted to be. And so VDOT and OCA met with, a number of the interest in all of this, as well as city departments. And so the biggest change is to have just one permit for a food truck. Takes out some of the complicated fee structures and taking away the requirement that we designate spaces on the city right of way to make it easier, and they'll just be allowed to park in metered spaces, on first come, first served basis. It's incorporating the fire inspection requirement for vehicles. There is a requirement in, I think it's in an appendix to the fire code that for inspecting mobile food vehicles. And so that's being added in with this, and adding in some provisions for mobile food parks, because there's been a lot of interest in those types of operations. And some of you may know there was an act passed last year that would allow mobile food trucks in certain circumstances to sell alcohol. And that was limited to entertainment districts. That has been amended in this session, so basically it's now statewide, but it's still limited to entertainment districts. And they took away the bill that passed for the city. It had like a one drink requirement. I think they took that out. But but they've added in that they can't operate within 150 feet of existing restaurants or ABC licensees. So there's been a few changes, for things to take in. But really what that statute does is create a new alcohol licensing category. So we have drafted the language. Basically, we've got to put something into this ordinance, which we have drafted, but we're working on tweaking all of these pieces to make sure they fit and the parts and procedures work together. But we'll be adding into this ordinance a provision that says they may, get this license to sell in entertainment districts. And then we'll be amending the entertainment district ordinance to say they will, that they can be there and relate the two to each other and to the state law, and ABC has a regulation that they've adopted creating this license. And then it also will need to, the way the state law is, like any other alcohol license, the council will have to pass on it. Then that's one thing with the food trucks. It will now be an administrative permit process where VDOT will be doing the permitting for the trucks instead of having them all come to the council, which was in the prior ordinance. But the alcohol piece will have to come to that council because the state law specifically says that the council has to approve it. So basically you'll have your permitting, your food truck, and then you'll have, if the food truck wants to sell alcohol in entertainment district, they'll have to apply for it like they would any other alcohol license. They have to say where, which districts they want to be in. We're thinking, given the distance provision and everything that's in, the ABC is requiring them to tell them their exact location before they are there. So what we're going to do is work with looking at the districts and identifying places for them to be. So these are some pieces that are still kind of in the process of working out, but that's where we're at.
Okay. Just for clarification on the state law where they added back in the 150-foot requirement, did that specifically pertain to the alcoholic beverage sales, or?
That's correct. Okay. That is specifically for if they're selling alcoholic beverages in an entertainment district. It would not apply elsewhere.
So I would tend to think that there would be sufficient space within our entertainment districts to accommodate a food truck setting up, that distance from already established business, but that'll be something that we'll have to look at.
And that's our entertainment districts. When the council designates them, they have boundaries, and we have boundary maps. To my knowledge, those haven't been placed on GIS, and I've been in some conversations with them, as well as I know some of the mayor's staff has. So that's a piece of this, is to get those onto the GIS system so that's a tool that VDOT can use in helping, identify those locations. And again, I think we're going to need to work with our districts. The districts are set up where they're managed by the Merchants Association or some similar association. I think Steve Alexander was here earlier and mentioned, the 5 Points Alliance, which was instrumental in getting the 5 Points Entertainment District designated. And they kind of manage it, and they manage getting the cups and, working with all the businesses that are participating in the district. So this is kind of bringing somebody in who's not been part of that process. So we need to have the districts understand what's going on and get those interests working together.
And so it's not just the food truck ordinance that will need to be amended, it will be also our entertainment district.
Entertainment district, and we probably need to create a new business license schedule because this will be an alcohol license like any other. If you're going to be a restaurant, you get your restaurant business license. If you want to sell alcohol, you have to get your restaurant retail liquor license. So you'll have your food truck business license, and they're going to have an ABC license, and they probably should have a corresponding license in the city schedule to go with that.
All right, Councilor Abbott?
I'm so thankful that they're giving us more opportunities to drink alcohol. We've been needing this for such a long time. But my real question is, like, the food trucks now can just set up in front of a restaurant and open for business? They can park anywhere they can find a parking place?
Not under the current ordinance, I'll have Mr.
Well, I'm not
Foster
talking
email
about the
address.
current ordinance. I thought we were getting a new ordinance.
Well, we are getting a new ordinance.
And
That
then
is
they were
correct.
gonna be able to park at any metered space.
No, they're still required right now. I'm sorry, Alan Foster, Office of City Attorney. 100 feet is what we had designated if it was a question to be designated. So it's 100 feet from the door of the existing restaurant.
So that's gonna remain.
That's going to remain. We
Just
just won't.
somebody setting up right in front of
Yeah,
a business.
in the past, we designated the spot to ensure we're no longer going to make that designation, and they're kind of on our system to do so.
Well, maybe we could mark the meters where they can't park. This is within 100 feet of a restaurant. I don't know, but, you know, people will do what they can get away with, and, you know, who would enforce it, really?
Right.
You know, if the fire hydrant in front of Highlands United Methodist Church always has cars parked in front of it, you know how often we're going to enforce. So I guess the restaurant would have to make a phone call to somebody.
Vigilante justice.
Yeah, vigilante justice. But if you flatten their tires, they'll stay there forever.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Wasn't making suggestions.
Public meeting, kidding, like joke.
Yeah,
She was kidding. Just kidding.
All right, so just for clarification, the individual city councilor should expect Office of the City Attorney to follow up with them and to, as the ordinance develops, and make sure that we're up to speed on this. I think that's, you know, traditionally how we've kind of moved ordinance changes forward.
Yeah, we still want to be conscious of the, committee structure, so we want to make sure we take it for the right committee. I think it should possibly fall under infrastructure and probably economic development. But that's
And public safety.
You let us know.
Yeah.
Just let us know. I would just
Previous, I was
do
gonna
that
say
other
previous,
committee also.
yeah, previously it went to public safety when it was adopted 10 years ago, and it was usually housed there, but it could be with some of the way that some responsibilities have shifted amongst departments and amongst the committees, the transportation and infrastructure, because we're talking about things being on the right of way.
Yeah, and we're always happy to, since it can potentially bring in, 3 different committees, we might as well have it at committee of the whole. So maybe we'll take that tack going forward.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. Last item on the agenda is discussion of real-time crime center camera expansion. And Chief Mitchell and Attorney Stanley, you're up.
As Chief Mitchell and Attorney Stanley are about to present, I should say that I know this topic is important to you individually and collectively as a council. Note I sent you all something that not last week, but the week before, maybe a little bit of detail a little bit. So this is information purposes today. That was important to share that in writing, but provide a verbal presentation to you on how important this is, and I think it would be helpful. Note what I sent you was separate from the presentation we rolled out, that Chief rolled out around the businesses being able to opt in with their existing camera situation. But I wanted to note that because of the following. If you tap on the video link I sent you, there was also, I'm sorry, the website I sent you, there was also a video, played the video that showed you that we've been able to solve just this year, well, since real-time crime center has been in existence, 500 crimes combined, crimes against persons, crimes against property. So we believe what's presented to you today literally increase and accelerate our opportunity to get criminals off the street and actually give our investigators additional tools to, they can't prevent, definitely be in a position to solve crime and get folks arrested and indicted in district tax time. So that, as the chief mentioned.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So just to give a brief overview of what has been done in the past, in September 18, the council approved an agreement between Birmingham, City of Birmingham and Alabama Power Company to start a pilot program to install 95 cameras in 4 different neighborhoods. Those neighborhoods consist of Ansley, Central Park, Kingston, and Gate City. The pilot program with Alabama Power is responsible for the installation, maintenance, and any necessary repairs. So that, as the mayor noted, that allowed us to have an expansion and a real-time crime center that we call our own, so we can have another tool in our toolbox. Right now, we have almost a little less than 6 months left on that contract that was signed in 2018. And with the help of Mrs. Attorney Stanley, myself, and a couple of the teams from BPD, we were able to really have a good conversation with the leadership at Alabama Power to start moving out of the phase of the pilot program into a full-fledged expansion of the program. As the mayor noted, he sent you a note. So what will be for the council as we work through the agreement with them is really just to give you some high points of how this partnership has evolved from 2018 to 2023. So Alabama Power has came to the table as we were the first to start this type of program to where other communities have kind of duplicated it and made sure it's one of their own, just like ours. So Alabama Power has come to the table and said with the current system that we have, the 95 cameras that I just know, that they will take full responsibility to take those down and replace them with the full technology that's updated for free at no cost to the city. Also, within the new confines of the agreement, there was some discussions that we had with District 9 and District 1 for some additional hotspot cameras within that district that have been designated by BPD and leadership of high crime areas. And Alabama Power has agreed to install those cameras at no cost. Additionally, if you recall, back during the World Games, the city purchased 50 cameras that we were trying to get installed timely, and now everything was kind of last minute with the World Games. So Alabama Power, once again, has came to the table and will take full ownership of those cameras that the city purchased and install those in high crime, high areas that they feel like cameras need to go. Now, let me specifically talk about the cameras. Even though we're installing more cameras, a lot of cameras have different feeds. Think about it as a spider. The spider has 8 eyes. These cameras have different eyes, so that gives us a basket of streams. So now we're just really expanding our footprint of having more eyes, and further to the mayor's point, as we expand our real-time crime center to make it more of a viable 24/7 crime center, which we had the promotion of the ambulance that we need for the people sitting in the crime center. That gives more of our boots on the ground and more eyes in the field to tell people where to go, and have it more integrated with our shot spotters and everything, our LPRs, so we can solve more than 500 cars. We can almost try to reduce crime if we have more eyes in the sky. That's really it. The only thing that is asked between the city and Alabama Power Company is to extend the current contract for 60 months. And it increases our overall cost from $59,000 a month to $80,000 a month. So I think, personally, I think it's a win-win for the city of Birmingham to have all these upgrades and additional cameras in the field for our BPD. And I just thank Alabama Power and thank you for them for just coming to the table as a partnership to solve one of our biggest needs in the city of crime.
So, it's not before us today, but we will need to update the contract to reflect these changes. Okay, so
this is just an update. So
right.
We're still working with Attorney Stanley and their legal counsel from Alabama Power. We have a draft, we're just getting through it, and just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that it was something that I know that Council Taylor and Council Woods had prior conversations about using their ARPA funds for high crime areas in their district, so we're able to loosen up those funds and get it all involved in this contract. In the same vein, we're reducing a lot of costs within the city, but expanding our whole footprint of camera surveillance.
Alexander?
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for this update. I do just want to go back and be sure that I'm clear. I know districts 1 and 9, I remember you were gonna put ARPA dollars into that. The 50 cameras that are now becoming available from Allen Power, how would that, or they're gonna take those over, how will those be deployed within the city, or what's the rubric that will be
Yeah,
used?
so
Okay.
as the mayor said, it will be BPD based off of data.
Okay.
Allen Power doesn't decide.
Yeah, we
That's
decide.
right.
Yes.
CPD does, so it won't even be the mayor's office.
Okay.
So it will, as I noted, we already have in Ensley, Central Park, Kingston, and Gate City, will fill in the blanks in those sectors where we need more visibility in those neighborhoods.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Tate?
Chief, yes, thank you, Mr. President. Chief, I'm just going to expound on, I know the real-time crime center is going to 24/7. And I remember the mayor talking about those positions. Do we have any flyers, or how are we marketing and trying to recruit? How many people will be staffed?
We do, we can work with our OTI, yeah, and the position is still open. I think the mayor noted it a couple of times that
That's,
this,
this is the first Tuesday I didn't say it, but I've said
Yeah.
it the last 2 Tuesdays. I think the position is still open.
Yeah.
I'll convert that
Okay.
to.
What's the requirements, Mayor, for those analysts? How many will be staffed?
I think we're shooting for 10.
10, okay.
Yeah, but it's, the minimum qualifications are attainable, and it's, of course, we have on-job training for it.
Okay.
And these are non-sworn positions, so.
Right. No A post. Because I would like to get some information and just distribute it like church and, just put it in different places. People that I know that have criminal justice degrees. Hey, this is an opportunity for you.
Council Moore?
Yeah, so I did want to ask, I know that, the 50 additional cameras are being added, based on Alabama Power. If there were, Birmingham Police Department, sorry, if we did still want to put funding towards more cameras.
Yeah, so I want to just kind of be cautious to it because we're not the subject matter experts in fighting crime. And I think allow us to work with BPD and Alabama Power to kind of negotiate that going forward. But we feel like the 50, along with some other things that we have done with our fire departments and our public works facilities where we have cameras on those facilities, we can close a lot of those gaps where we feel like we need more eyes.
Council Clark?
I don't really have a question about this, but at MLC, we did watch a demo of the Sprint drone, and I understand we have a couple, and they were saying ours need to be updated, by the way.
Yeah, so I was going to say this, I'm saying this without any knowledge from the chief or BB leadership. What I did city council take Sunday, and we saw some cool technology.
Yes, we did.
That we don't have. The sheriff, the county have. Yeah, so there's a human capital element here in my left hand, and there's a technology piece in my right hand. And I think, when it relates to the real-time crime center, we got that position that we're advertising, right? That's the human capital piece. Then we got this piece on the technology piece for the real-time crime center. I think 2 pieces that are missing is, I think, we have an existing MOU related to Star One as it relates to usage of the helicopter. What we need is additional resources for drones, and then additional resources, in my opinion, human capital related to Star One. What we find existing with our real-time crime center is that, because it's not 24 hours, we know a lot of crime occurs while a lot of citizens are asleep. Well, we also know, and it's been very rampant for a while, that it's not just our city right away on the streets, but you take the shutting down the interstate, for example. That's a legal responsibility, not ours.
Yes, right.
However, there should be coordination with Star One, with drones, with our real-time crime center, and with human capital on the ground. I believe that requires more resources that I believe I'm very comfortable having not talked to the police yet. It's just based on what we saw Sunday. It hadn't been 72 hours yet. Just based on what we saw Sunday. I need to come to you all with more recommendations for more technology use of drones, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, what impressed me was how quickly it can respond, and it can go anywhere, and not necessarily be tied to a fixed point. I mean, like the cameras are, and then the officers who are responding know what's there before they get there. I mean, I was like, that's huge. And it can do a lot of responding for the officers, so you don't even have to deploy a human.
Right, and kind of to add to that, it's one of those partnerships, local agreements we have with Jefferson County EMA. They have a person that's on duty, on site, that allows us to use their drone whenever we need it, and we were able to use it less than 72 hours ago for an incident. That helped us give us more visibility, and we do our incident command structure that allows more eyes to just, foresee anything or any issues that somebody that's walking the streets cannot see. But another point to what the mayor said, the Birmingham Connect thing with Birmingham PD is one of the biggest toolbox that we can use.
It is
allowing the public to give us access to their ring camera or their, any type of camera that allows BPD the access to solve crime.
That's the equalizer. Just the opt-in, right? That, I don't know the number. Here's what I do know. There was a special election, state house representative race, a couple Tuesdays ago, was it? 3 or 4 Tuesdays ago. Like I say, it's public now. I spent probably going for 6.5 hours on the ground in various neighborhoods across the city. There's no shortage of cameras in our city. There's no shortage.
Everybody saw you.
I would dare to say at least 50% of homes have some form of camera on their home property, front door, back door, ring, whatever it is. Businesses have cameras. There is no shortage of cameras that exist in our city. We need to create a campaign. I'm not putting something, I'm going to take responsibility for this, but I'm comfortable saying it out loud, that we have to get residents and businesses to opt into that program, and it changes everything. I mean, it just changes everything. I think about what you said again this morning. I'm comfortable that the majority of those businesses, not just their interior, but I dare to say at least 40, 50% of their exterior has some form of camera.
Yeah, they have footage. They've showed us and the police. Yeah.
Getting that footage in real time versus after a crime happens and then the police got to go knock on the door and if they're closed, we got to wait till the next day. That's the point. That if they opt in, we have it in real time. And so it's not just what he's presenting today. It's the streams of existing things across our city in real time that optimizes our real-time crime center. And if something happens in real time, our ability to be able to engage in real time versus after the fact.
I just need them to actually enforce if we do that, because like I was saying, that video, they've turned in several times and nothing was done. That was the one where people were shooting up, doing all types of activities and nothing was being done. So my prayer is that it's actually enforced if we have them opt into this.
All right, so this was an update, but we should look forward to seeing some new version of the contract. I did have one question. So when we approved that contract back in 2018, there was a significant difference in cost for the standard cameras versus the LPR cameras. Are we adding LPRs?
So we've already added LPRs, and they will be upgrading those current LPRs also.
Okay.
So now we'll do
License plate reader.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be expanding our capacity in that regard with this next expansion. All right.
LPRs,
Council Woods.
Yeah, I could be wrong. Just the observation. y'all tell me what y'all think, but, it seems like Chief Mitchell might have a little softer touch ever since Christian.
He's just talking.
More thoughtful.
Go back.
Maybe it's the holiday.
Wait, no, don't listen to him.
Might be the holiday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, very Thanksgiving, Mr. President and council to each of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
That's it, thank you.
All right, that brings us to new and old business. Quickly, couple of things. So because of the holiday, we will have to add the Birmingham Southern Agreement to the council agenda as an addendum because the submission deadline was early because of the holiday this week. And I've also been notified that administration is requesting to put a.
We made the deadline of Birmingham Southern, it does not reflect approval by this committee, we will have that.
Yeah, we made it.
Okay, all right. And what about the concessionaires agreement for Boutwell?
Yes.
Okay, that's also been submitted, so it's just gonna be on the agenda. All right. And I'd like us to think about the scheduling of future committee of the whole meetings. I know it's been a challenge in the past to do it on Wednesday afternoon and get out in time for people to have other activities. You know, this is a exception to that normal schedule. But think about if we could potentially do this during daylight hours during the future. I think it works out better for staff. Yeah. But you know, in the past when we've had committee of the whole, we're hitting 6:30, 7 o'clock sometimes. So just something to think about in the future. Is there any additional business that we need to discuss?
I move for adjournment. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.